Okay, so in this video we're going to create a function that's going to get us the distance between two different addresses. Hopefully that will make sense in just a little bit. So what I want to be able to do, I want to be able to just type like two different addresses I have to 300 North LaSalle Street, and that's going to be Chicago, Illinois. And I want to be able to type another address. So let's say I have 600 North, I don't know, let's type Michigan Avenue. And then it's Chicago, Illinois as well. And I want to be able to just see what's the difference, how far are these two addresses. So the distance. And then maybe we'll do some extra stuff. So we'll see how it goes. We're going to get to Google's Maps object to do this. And we're going to have to use app scripts, obviously. So we'll go under Tools, Script Editor. It's going to open our script editor. I'm going to just go ahead and name this project right away. I'll call this Distance Project. I'm not going to go into detail about little things in our app scripts. So if you're not familiar with app scripts, go back and watch the beginning of our series and then come back to this. So this is not really introductory video, but it should not be too difficult either. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to create a new function. I'm going to call this function Google Maps. That's what I'm going to call this. So, and the reason I'm calling it Google Maps is because the distance we're going to get is based on Google Maps distance that we get. So to get the distance, basically we're going to have an A point, the start point, and the end point, right? So in our function, I'm going to put two arguments. The first argument is going to be, well, first of all, let me explain you how I want it to work, right? So I want in the end of the day to come here and type equals and then type the name of the function and then say, okay, so this is the beginning, comma, this is the end. And maybe we'll later on create a third argument here to give us different options. For now, that's pretty much it. Close this, and I want it to return how far are these 2 points. That's what I'm trying to accomplish. So the first argument in this function is going to be basically the start address, right? Where we start. So I'll just type something, comma, and then end address. We could call it destination, origin, or something, but that's what I'm going to call this. So that's what we have. So for right now, I don't want to directly go to this Google, interface and use this. So I want to be able to run this function on its own to see how it's actually going. So I'm going to assign some values to my variables. Right here in the function. So that's the start and end. Go get the second address. Paste it here. So very good. Now we have these two variables. The first one is the first address. The second one is the second one. So what I need to do is explore maps object in app scripts, and in our maps objects basically we have, well, a lot of stuff, right? So what we need to do, we're going to use this new direction finder. So I'm gonna go with new direction finder and dot. And then you will see that it basically gets us different things that we can do. So for what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna first assign this to a variable to use it as an object. So I'll call this map, just like that, pretty much. That should work. That's gonna be my object. Now I'm gonna take this object, and this is just gonna create this direction finder. So let's think about it that way. Inside of this direction finder, which is now called whatever this is, I'm gonna do some things. So I'm gonna do the dot, and what I have to do, I have to set my, well, let's see what it's called. So origin, perfect, string address, that works for us. So we're gonna set the origin, meaning the start address. That's the same thing, the origin. So I'm just gonna paste this variable here. Then I'm gonna go inside of the same object, and I'm gonna set my destination. Again, that's gonna be where we're going. So we're going from this address to this address. And then if we go to map object again, we're gonna say, well, let's go ahead and get directions. And that get directions is going to return the result for our directions. So I'm gonna say variable directions equals this. So for now, I want to just log this out to see what I actually get. So I'm gonna go log directions, semicolon, right? So I'm logging this out to see what is this gonna actually give me. So I'm gonna just run this, run function, and this. It ran with no problem. Let's see the log. So that's what our log returns. So that's some crazy stuff here, but it's really our directions. So what it does, it returned this object, has a lot of stuff in it, but the first thing in our object is the route that it's returning, because when we get directions, we might get multiple routes, right? So what I'm really doing right now, let's actually just search here to I'm just searching Google to get some directions, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and open this up in Google Maps. So that's our directions, right? So when you search for directions, a lot of times you have multiple options with your directions, right? So we have this one that we're offered through Wacker Drive. So we can also go this way to go to our destination, the third way. So in this particular case, Google gave us 3 different routes. And usually the first one it gives us is the shortest one it could find, which gives us this 5-minute through Upper Wacker Drive. So when we go back to our log, we should be able to see those. So the routes means those are different routes that it's giving us. So see the summary, it says East Upper Wacker Drive, West Wacker Drive, and North Michigan Avenue. That's the summary. So that's pretty much what we're getting right here. If we look, this is exactly that same thing that we're getting, the summary that we get. So that means the first route is the shortest route. So we'll just base it on the first route. We'll say, let's just get the shortest one that it offers us right now at this particular moment of time. So to get to it, we're gonna have to get to our inside of our routes. And let me just get to routes. So inside of directions, we have routes. That's what it said we have. So I'm just gonna type that, and then I'm gonna run this again to have, it's not gonna be much clearer, but I guess a little bit more clear, because now we're gonna be at least inside of routes, so less stuff as a result. So there it is, inside of those routes. So if you look here, it's an array. So this square bracket, that's an array. The reason it's an array is because we have multiple routes, right? We have this route, we have the second route, we have the third route. So the first one is what we're looking for in our routes. So to choose the first one in our arrays, we choose the 0 index, which is where our array starts. So save, run this again. Let's take a look. Now we should just have that first route. That's what we chose. So in this route, we have the summary. So I don't really care about the summary all that much. So let's go and see. After the comma, we have copyrights, which is Google's copyrights here, right? We have legs. So basically, I guess how many steps it is. So there it is. That's interesting. So in the legs, we have the duration. It says 7 minutes and the value 447, whatever that means. So then we have the start location, which gives us the location, latitude and all that stuff. Then we have the distance. So distance is what we actually wanted, right? We want to get the distance of this thing. So the distance is inside of the current object that we're in. So if I simply just say, let's get the distance, we should be fine. We should be able to get this as a result. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to do distance. That looks good. Let's run that, see what we get. Log again, undefined. So maybe I did mistype something, or let me see what I did there. So save, run. You go back and take a look. So apparently, so this was summary, copyrights, legs, start location, and distance. Can't really see anything wrong there, so I'm gonna just copy it, make sure I didn't mistype anything, and say okay. So we're gonna get our distance. Try this again, see what I get. Okay, so undefined again. So I'm definitely doing something wrong, so I have to go back and check what I'm doing. Log again. So that's our summary. So what I've missed here is that this legs, see, it starts an array here, and inside of that array we have all the stuff. I didn't see this bracket. So that means we have to first go under legs to get inside of this array. And this is where having some syntax highlighting would have helped a lot. But I need to go under legs to get to the next level. Okay, fair enough. So we'll go legs. Save this. I'm going to run this. Logs. There we are. So now we're inside of that. So in here, the first one is our duration, which is basically in minutes. We don't care about that, but we still, this is an array. So in this array, we have this object, which is the first one, right? Which is basically, well, it starts here and duration, and that actually doesn't end there, as this is duration and it equals to this. Oh yeah, it equals to that. That's this first object. Then the start location is gonna be this object. Then the distance is gonna be the other object, and the start address. This are without syntax highlighting. This is like a nightmare. And then steps we have in there that gives us duration, travel mode, driving. Okay. All right. That's fair enough. So I think what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just access this distance over here that says 1 mile, and that should be in our array over here. Maybe later on I'll put it in a normal text editor that we can see what's going on, why they use an array here, because they probably have multiple options here, I assume, but we'll see. So the first thing I'm going to do is access the first thing here in this array, which is going to be this duration thing inside of that. So the first thing is the 0th element, because we have an array again. So there we are. Run this. Go check our log. There we have it. So duration is the first thing here. Start, which has this object, then start location is this whole thing, and distance is the next one. So we really want that distance. So okay, and hopefully we're finally getting there. That's our distance. Save. I'm gonna run this. There it is. So text. So we have this 1 mile, and then we have this value which says 1,648. So I'm not sure, is that meters? So let's try. So let's go to Google. Let's search miles to meters. 1,609. So 1 mile is 1,609. It's interesting. Not 1,648. Maps value distance measurement. So let's see. There it is, units. So let's see. Okay, so when you specify. So metric returns the distance in kilometers and meters. So yeah, so I guess that's meters, although somehow that meters converted to 1.0 miles. Yeah, so I guess that's what it's doing. It's taking it in meters, and we can convert it to miles. So I'm not really sure if I want to grab the miles or I want to take the value out of this and use that instead. I think I'm going to get the value and I'm going to convert it to miles myself. Which should give us that number. So 1,648. Good. So at this point, I'm going to assign this to a variable. That. And then there it is. Okay, that's the number I'm gonna use. We'll see if it's good. So I'm going to say var distance equals meters multiplied by that number, and let's just log it out. Distance. Save. Go back and run this thing. See what we get. 1.02 miles. It's good enough for me. I guess Google just rounds it up for us. So 1.02 is converted to 1.0. Fair enough. So that's that. Now, now that I'm thinking about this, it would be nice to, and this basically we're converting this, not the distance is really in miles. That's what I converted it to, right? Now, it would be nice to offer the person some options, what they can do. So maybe they want to get it in miles, or maybe they want to get the distance in minutes, for example, right? And I saw there was an option for us to actually get those. So if I go back to this to just take a look what was in there. The log. So the next one is duration. So the value is 447. So I'm going to assume that should be seconds. So that's our duration. So duration, and inside of duration we have value. Let's try that. So we have our duration, and then in it we have a value. So let's make sure this works. 447. Now that point, let's just assign that to a variable. Var duration equals this. And if we want to convert that to minutes, assuming that this is in seconds, we should be able to divide it by 60. To get the difference in minutes. So run this. Okay, another number. Interesting. So, oh, you know what? We should take the duration and divide it by 60. Log 7.45. All right, so minutes, and this is our distance in miles, right? That's what we're getting. So now what I'm gonna have to do, I'm gonna have to give the user an option to actually choose how they want to use this function. So what that means is that I want to be able to have like equals, I'm not going to type the actual name yet, but I'm going to have them type the start address, comma, the end address. And finally, I want the last argument to be some sort of text argument. That's going to be, I want the distance in minutes. So that way they get it in minutes. Or maybe they want it in miles. That way they get it in miles. Or maybe they want it in, I don't know, kilometers, and they get kilometers, right? So maybe those three options would be enough: kilometers, miles, and minutes. So at least for now, maybe in hours would be a nice option to have later on as well. But that's going to be our third option, and that's going to be return type, something like that. save. So we're gonna have to check what return type they provide. So this is where I think should use switch case type of JavaScript. So switch case, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically it's like a lot of if statements. So we could do if this return type is meters, then do this. If this return type is like this, then do this. If this return, and we have to do a lot of else if type of situations. So I guess it's a prettier way to handle that. So we're gonna say if this return type, so we're gonna say if it's case, so we're gonna say if it's meters, then we're gonna do something, right? So just gonna say something, and then we'll break out of this so we don't keep doing this. And then we'll do the other case if that return type is minutes. So we don't want meters, actually, miles, maybe minutes. Then actually I was trying to do a comment here and I don't know how I ended up with that. So anyways, so that's gonna be something again. So in case it says minutes, we're gonna do something and then we'll break out of this. Then what other cases we have? Case, so we're gonna do miles, minutes, and kilometers. Something for now, and I'm gonna break out of that. And finally, this case, switch case sort of statements have an option for you to have a default, which means if it's none of those, it's like an else statement pretty much. Then let's do this. And that last thing that I want to do, in case it's none of those, I just want to basically return an error in my function. And I'm gonna return, and the error is gonna be wrong unit type. Maybe we'll just do error wrong unit type, something like that. So that's what we're gonna return if that's what happens. So now if they choose to get the difference in miles, then so all this stuff, first of all, I'm just gonna cut and move here for a second. So that's all we're gonna do. We're gonna just get directions to directions object. Now if they decide to do it in minutes, that's where we're gonna have to do this. So the something is gonna be minutes. So this is where you usually comment and make it nice. Get duration in seconds. Convert to minutes. So we have our minutes, and then once we have our minutes, we want to just pretty much return. So I'm just gonna do this, return that. So we'll say convert to minutes and return, which is going to be the result of our function. So basically we're going to run it and we're going to return this if that's what they choose, minutes. Perfect. So that should convert this to the whole minute situation. Now let's see what we do when we want to get miles. So when we want to get miles, it's probably redundant to run this here, but I'll do it anyways to simplify the code. So I'm just gonna run this line anyways, although it's not a good idea because it's redundant to then run this all over again. I guess I could run it until like this point and then use it as an object for the rest. But since we already got the directions, I'm not that concerned about it because this is the object with all that values. All right, so we should be fine. So again, there's some repetition here. That's not great. This is gonna bother me for a while, so let me actually move this. So I'm gonna create a variable. I'll call it get, and that's gonna be pretty much this. And then I'm gonna say, well, this is that. Let's get our lag. And the same thing here. So I want to repeat that. So I can leave with this. It's not the best, but it's fine. So there we are. So we're gonna get the lag. We're gonna get the meters in this one. So now if they choose miles, we want to do this. Which I'll just return that, which refers to basically we'll do a calculation based on meters. Now if they choose kilometers, so we're gonna divide it by 1000. That should return our kilometers. Okay, so let's test this out. So this is our function. We go here. I want to be able to just type this, hit an error. It says wrong unit type. Interesting. Cannot read property duration from undefined. Oh, so it seems like we have a different problem now. Well, first of all, this we shouldn't use. What it's trying to do is read this, and it's not able to do that. And we have to find out why, and it's because the lag probably includes the 0th element here. So we don't need to get it. So let's try it again. Save it, go back. Perfect. 7:45. That's in minutes. Now let's try miles. 1.2 miles. Perfect. Now let's try kilometers. That's this. Now, why are we getting this thing here? So let's try it again. So kilometers, hit enter, we get what we need. Miles. .02 minutes. When somebody types hours, wrong unit type. So this is where we should actually, so technically I should really choose, if they choose a wrong unit type, I shouldn't really run this whole thing. But anyhow, so I'm gonna delete this, save that. Let's also delete all the stuff on top. And I'm gonna end it on this. So that should be our function. So we should also add some comments for people to be able to use this as an autocomplete. Okay, so hopefully you don't make as many typos as I do. Custom function, get distance between so let's make sure this actually gives us some autocomplete. Okay, very good. Now let's just do our parameters. So that's one. And address. Let's put the quotes in here, I guess. So it's clear. So let's see if this works. So Google Maps, perfect. Tab. So see, that's our address as string, and we have to do the return type. Escape out of that. Type as string. Example. So what options we have? Miles, minutes, kilometers right now. So okay, so let's try this out. So Google Maps, miles, kilometers, meters, kilometers, minutes. Good. So that's our start address. That's our end address. We want the distance in miles. We get that. Now let's say I want to get the distance from Chicago to New York. There it is, 796 miles. Nice. Let's do Los Angeles. There it is, 2014 miles. If we want it in kilometers, just go, instead of miles, we type kilometers. And it helps if you type it right? There it is, 3,242. There we have it. That's our function. It has things that can be improved, a lot of things. So the first thing that again comes to mind, we have to first check if it's one of this and not run the call to Google to get the address if the return type is wrong. So that's the first improvement that needs to be done to this function. Other things, we should add different types other than just miles, kilometers, and minutes. Maybe do hours and, you know, a few other options there. So I think I'm gonna just add hours to this too really quickly here. So let's copy this minutes. And we'll just do hours and hours. Oh, that's actually seconds was accurate. Hours. So minutes to hours. So that's basically divided by another 60. After we get the minutes, maybe I should have just divided by a greater number, but that should work. So here, or hours, save, go back, let's try it. So how long does it take us to get from Chicago to New York? So that's kilometers. We're gonna do minutes. 728 minutes. Let's get in hours. 12 hours. That seems right. So we're good. And again, tons of things that can be improved, but this should work. All right, that's it. Hopefully you like this video. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.